for coming along. This is looking at understanding the effects of COVID-19 on our mental health and some strategies on how we can help cope with that. Delighted to be working with the schools as advisory service, who's helping present this today. We're hosting it today. So today, yes, as I said, we'll look at the influences, the balance of well-being, and hopefully some tips. So I'm Sheila Ross. I'm from the Foundation of Positive Mental Health, a charity that Alastair Dobbin, who hopefully will join us soon, and I started up. My background is in health psychology, and I'm a psychotherapist, and Alastair was a GP in Edinburgh for 35 years, and he lectures and is involved with research. So let's start by thinking how we're feeling now. Okay, I'm feeling a little bit stressed with the digital challenges, but one word to get a sense of how you're feeling now. And if Danny can just quickly read these out, just to, you know, a sort of thumb in the air sort of thing. Are you feeling relaxed? The person with the leak said she was feeling stressed. Are you feeling interested? Are you feeling a bit sad? Are you feeling frustrated? Just type in the chat box all the words about how you're feeling right now.
Some of the words that we're getting through at the moment are isolated, apprehensive, anxious, bored, unsettled, tired, stressed. What else we're getting through? Tired, chilled, confused, uncertain, despair, curious, irritated. Happy, it's my birthday, so staff have spoiled me, so happy birthday. Worried for the future, uncertain, tense.
Great, okay, good.
Lots of different kind of general themes of being stressed and unwell.
Right. So predominantly there's a lot of rather negative feelings there, which is not surprising given the current times, which are very uncertain, and to feel stressed and a bit anxious about them is a normal reaction to what are very abnormal times. But I think our range of emotions also highlights for us where we sit on this continuum of mental health. I like to think of our mental health as this continuum because it's not a static thing, as you'll appreciate. We sort of go up and down. Sometimes we're feeling great and we're up towards the peak performance end of this, and sometimes we're feeling more down and worried and we're down towards the anxiety, depression spectrum. Hopefully we're sort of more or less in the middle towards the right, but there are various factors that pull us down towards the left. So yeah, there's, you know, worry. Many people feel worried. Sometimes we can feel hopeful. So the factors that pull us down towards depression and anxiety are our negative triggers and our limiting self-beliefs. So by negative triggers, these are experiences in the past that have made us feel bad, and by bad, you know, maybe low, anxious, stress, which then come up again in the present. So for example, if I'm sitting on my computer and in the past, I've had maybe a difficult email with someone that's made me feel a bit anxious, and then I see this person's email pop up in my box. Again, I might be suddenly think, oh no, and I feel worried. Now that's a negative trigger too. You know, I'm remembering the feeling from a past situation. A limiting self-belief can be, for example, if we weren't very good at maths at school, then maybe when we're doing maths at work, we think, oh, I can't do it because I'm rubbish at maths. So we've got it in our mind, we're no good at something. Or maybe we think we're no good at sport because we were never chosen for a team. So these are limiting self-beliefs, and they can be recent or they can be from much further away in the past in our childhood. And there's a lot of talk now and awareness of adverse childhood experiences called ACEs. And these are defined into 10 different types of trauma or traumatic backgrounds. And the research is very clear in showing that the more exposure young people have to these, the more likely they are to have challenges with their mental health in later life. But the good news is that we are able to do things to pull us up out of moving down towards depression and anxiety, that we can move up towards more peak performance. And this is through accessing our coping memories. It's clear that, you know, perhaps I should have said, when we're in peak performance and up towards the right of the screen, we need positive emotions to be able to perform in this area. And depression and anxiety, we have low positive emotions and high negative emotions. So it's almost like a seesaw. So we access our positive emotions from coping memories. So let's just say a little bit more about that. So we know that the aspects that determine our well-being are these attributes of autonomy, competency, and relatedness. Now, this is Ryan and Decky's theory of self-determination, and together they combine to make self-actualization, which is an expression of us being able to be our true selves and feel we reach our full potential. So in terms of health promotion, we are all striving towards self-actualization. And the factors that we need within our lives to reach this is we need to feel autonomous. And autonomy is agency. It's where we feel we are in control of our lives and the decisions that we make. Competency we need, which is like how skilled we feel. And then relatedness is our connections to others. And all of these combine together to make, move my chat box over here, to make purpose and meaning, which is more of a spiritual component, but again, it's very important for our well-being because it's how we make sense of life. It's our place in life, and that contributes to our well-being as well. And well-being is what underpins resilience. And resilience is the ability to not only bounce back from adversity, but also to bounce forward, because it is a growth spiral. So the more that we're able to bounce, to cope with a challenge, the more that builds our inner resilience and our ability to cope in the future. So it's something that's obviously very important to have and to build, particularly in young people. So I thought it'd be interesting, looking at COVID-19 to think about, well, how has it impacted? If these are the components behind our well-being, autonomy, competency, and relatedness, how has COVID-19 impacted on these attributes within us? And so I just thought, take a moment to think about yourselves, your own situation. So autonomy is so clear. We've been told we can't go outside, we've been told to social distance. So we've lost quite a lot of autonomy. Competency, sure, some of us might be furloughed. We're all dealing with new work situations. We're having to learn new skills like the digital stuff. So again, that's challenging our competency and relatedness too. We're missing the physical contact from others. And although we can Zoom, I'm looking at the camera. If I'm looking at the camera, I'm not looking at somebody's face on screen. So there's a disconnect there. We're also missing out on all the micro expressions that are in people's face, and there's a lag time with online communication. So all of these impact with our sense of relatedness. So if you just like to take a think, how is this impacting on your life now? And what have you done that's made a difference to yourself to maybe cope better with these changes? Or have you noticed certain behaviors in yourself, like in response to this? For example, maybe I was just thinking, like my granddaughter, she's become really quite, she's 6, she's become very uncooperative, I would say is the word. And I was just thinking today as I was writing this, I thought, yeah, well, that's her way of gaining some autonomy. She's in control of how much she decides to do. And she's lost, children don't have that much autonomy anyway, but she's lost going to school and that sort of thing. So again, put it in the chat box to Danny, and I'm getting some chat, so I can see some. Yeah, some people say it's not all negative, and that's true because some positives have come forward. Like I think we're more, sorry, go ahead, Danny.
Sorry, I'm just saying that we had somebody say that they've joined a first responder scheme to give themselves some purpose and a way of helping others. But also doing lots of Zoom meetings to see their families as well.
Yeah. There's a lot of positives in working, absolutely. You know, working more efficiently. We don't have so much travel time. So there's some very positive things that will come out of this COVID-19, for sure.
We've had someone say they started running because they can't get to the gym, which is certainly a great way to adapt to the situation that we're in at the moment.
Yeah, a lot of our normal coping mechanisms have been taken away. Someone was saying, you know, they noticed they were freaked out, feeling anxious at the beginning, and now that's changed. So that's showing adaptation. And someone was worried about the impact of pupils. People are eating better, so that's another positive. And I think maybe there's some anxiety around, you know, we've sort of, I was speaking to someone the other day who said, the more that I stay in, the more that I don't want to go out. So, you know, maybe staying in has become our new normal. So we have to readjust to going out again and socializing again. So it's a sort of fluid situation. So there's a real range of feelings and activities, positive and negative. And I think that's very interesting. There is that sense of maybe revaluing things and noticing how important our relationships are. Okay, there's somebody saying that someone's on a vulnerable list. They're worried that they can't physically be in school. So how are people going to perceive that? Maybe people think that you're less dedicated if you're not actually in presence in somewhere. Some people are seeing their children more. Yeah, so very interesting to think about the way it's impacting. My sense is that it's definitely an increased feeling of anxiety within society. And I think maybe with the children, they're going to be more resilient than we think. I think children often are. But I think within the schools, I think if we give them the opportunity to talk about their feelings, and of course, for some people, it's not very easy talking about your feelings, but we talk more about how we can shift and maybe some of the more positive things and ways we can help ourselves move up the continuum. So I'm hoping Alastair's now online and that he can bring in his research to talk about that.
I'm Alastair Dobbin, a GP researcher, particularly into mental health problems and resolutions. And I'm just going to talk a bit about our research and about a program that we developed that is telling us quite a lot about how people cope and how people bounce back. So our program is called Positive Mental Training, and it came from an encounter I had with an Olympic Swedish coach for the Olympics team. And I found his program was very useful. We tried it out in the health service. We found that it made people recover from emotional distress, depression, anxiety. And so we've adapted that. And we've done quite a lot of research into it. So I'm just going to run through the factors that are that we've found out about. What we found is what the research shows us is that expectation is the most important factor in recovery from any manifestation of emotional distress, be it depression, anxiety, personality disorder problems. If you can see yourself getting better, then you will get better. If you have a positive visualization of how you will be when you are better, then that will take you to feeling better. It's to do with the science of visualization. And hang on a minute, let's see. Okay, so a positive expectation as I say, it has been shown to be the most important factor. Positive expectation could be seen as optimism or hope or a positive visualization. And what we have worked out is that skills from therapy, as expectation is the most important factor, skills from therapy must share a similar mechanism, increasing expectation. If you can increase a positive expectation of recovery, that will actually take you to the recovery. Now, as I say, this and this is the most significant cause of distress, is having a negative expectation, not being able to access positive expectation. So it's this kind of positive expectation that is a lack of that that's causing the problem. It's not to do with genetics, and it's not to do with personality types. It's to do with your memories, your past experiences, because that's what drives your expectation of what will happen in any situation. So, as I say, what can we learn from sport? I mean, this program came from a mental training program from Sweden, coaching program, and we found that was very effective for our distressed patients. So this is Lizzie Arnold, who is a 2-time gold medal winner in the Winter Olympics for this sort of tobogganing sport. And Lizzie actually won at Sochi and then at Pyongyang 4 years later, which is quite a remarkable achievement. I spoke to Lizzie. I was very interested in how she did her training, and she said that the key factor for her was that she would visualize the course. They were only allowed to go down it once before they started. She would visualize the course. She would see and feel in her body every bend in the course, and then she would go out and she would give her peak performance from that. So what does this mean with sport? If we say expectation is important for recovery, it's also important in coping with everyday and exceptional challenges such as the Olympics, and in recovery from emotional distress. And if we think of a pathway whereby this takes place, if we think of a positive visualization will then lead to behavioral activation. If you visualize your behavior in future, then that will come to pass because you will be ready to activate it, and that will lead to a functional improvement. Now, in the case of a sports person, that will result in increased performance. They're more likely to access their ideal performance. But in someone who's depressed, they will see themselves having a recovered situation. They'll see how they will be when they are recovered, and that will lead them into recovery. And so the outcome depends on a fluency of your behavioral change, your performance. And we all perform all the time, really, whether you're teaching at school or whether I'm at work seeing patients, we're all performing. I'm performing as a doctor, you're performing as a teacher. Depressed people are performing as someone who lacks social ability. And it always helps if you can see yourself performing properly. One is for motor fluency. The sports person is in their motor system. The depressed person is in their social fluency. So what factors strengthen or weaken our positive visualization or expectation of performance or recovery? And the answer is our past experiences encoded in our memories. So what we found from research is that the memory research has showed us that there is a rule of 3 for memories, for accessing memories. Memories have a major effect on well-being and emotional health, probably more than any other factor, more than genetics, more than personality types. It's what's happened to you in the past that is important and how you deal with it. For each situation that we're faced with, our reaction is made up of a composite of 3 associated memories with that situation, which form an action algorithm, which then gets activated and makes us behave in a way that will either help us or hinder us. Each associated memory, remember there are 3 behind each situation, each associated memory will encode either positive or negative self-determination. And the rule of 3, which is quite amazing, and this is what we found out with our research, is that the sum of these 3 associated memories, whether they're self-determining or negative self-determining, The sum determines whether we feel good, whether we access a positive visualization and take action. In Shakespearean terms, take up arms against the sea of troubles. And that's if you have 2 out of 3 of these associated memories are positive, or we feel bad and withdraw, suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, and that we get that if we have 2 out of 3 negative associated memories, negatively self-determining. If 2 out of 3 are negative, it has a long-term effect of lowering our well-being and positive emotions over extended periods. So our research, we took a Canadian, we did this with a Canadian university, and we asked Canadian students to find a negative memory, a particularly negative memory, and then find the 3 associated memories. We found that 1/3 of the students had 2 out of 3 negative associated memories with lowered well-being, lowered vitality, and lowered levels of positive emotions. These students, so we gave these students either 10 minutes of a relaxation trap or 10 minutes of Olympic visualization coaching. And we found the visualization coaching changed one of these 3 negative memories to a positive memory. And all the students who had the 2/3 negative associated memories had a rise in positive emotions and an increase in vitality. Conclusion is that the essential skill underpinning therapy, and this probably applies to all therapy, CBT, psychoanalysis, mindfulness, the essential skill that underpins this is our ability to access positive resources, positive memories. This can occur, we would say, in the process of any therapy. Belief leads to expectation, which leads to positive visualization in any therapy, because when you're working with a therapist, you are constantly having a reinforcement of a positive visualization of your recovery. Or you can direct people specifically to change their memories, which is what our program does. Okay, so that's a very rapid skate through the whole thing, and I'll send you back to Sheila now.
That we can do things to help ourselves. And the way the program works is that, first of all, there's relaxation. Now, relaxation is really important because, remember, on that diagram, the continuum, we had, the negative feelings, they're down on the left-hand side. And, worry, anxiety, they're felt in the body. So feelings are felt. They are a physical sensation. And so we want to remove some of the negative triggers and negative self-learning that we've had over our lives, which connect us to bad feelings in the past, connecting us to feeling bad in the present. And the key to that is to be able to relax the body. So the program begins with relaxation. And that's very important, because I think that's a little bit counterintuitive, because sometimes we think, oh, it's all about our thoughts. Sure, our cognitions are important, but if our body is anxious, and we know that when we're anxious, we breathe fast. If our body is tense, that is telling our mind we're not safe and we need to do something about it. So we start to look for, where's the danger coming from? And we'll attribute and misattribute and misinterpret people's facial expressions as well. And we withdraw. So it's got a whole suite of negative consequences. So that's why the program begins with relaxation and then a safe place. And in that place, it's like a place of neutrality, where we're able to step back from all our negative self-talk, all of that, the negative expectations that we've learned in life. And then we're more open to the positive priming and seeing positive outcomes. So we can maybe believe, yes, we can do well in that exam, or we can pass that test, rather than thinking, oh, but I failed that test before. So we're able to make the switch. And the visualization, which is what athletes do, is very helpful. Now, we're not all athletes by any means, but if we can visualize ourselves performing well, socially, maybe at school, talking to our friends, we build up the self-confidence within ourselves. Visualization is almost like memories of the future. So that builds up the sense of self-confidence within ourselves. So that is the sort of structure within the program that we work with. And as Alastair said, there are other ways of doing this. I mean, there's mindfulness and meditation, which are ways into relaxation themselves. I think the difference is perhaps that we're more goal directed, but you know, there's horses for courses. So that's a little bit about the program, and then it's been used in the NHS for 12 plus years, starting out with CDs, audio CDs, and in the NHS it's used for stress, depression, anxiety, and it's used a lot by staff for themselves because, you know, we're all in need of help sometimes, and it's very good for sleep. But an interesting study that came recently is from New Zealand, where they said they looked at people born in 1972, 73, and then 45 years later, they said that 86% met the criteria for at least one psychiatric diagnosis. That doesn't mean they had a psychiatric diagnosis. It means that had they visited a psychiatrist, they might have been given a diagnosis. So it just, and they said that mental health shifts around that time. So it wasn't like someone was anxious, you know, when they were 20 and they were still anxious when they were 40. They exhibited different sort of aspects of low mental health. And I think that just reinforces for me the fluidity of our mental health and how we can learn skills to pull ourselves up. And sometimes we have more stresses in life and we have to, you know, gain more skills. Life is not rigid either. And so these people, their main point was that it's not just about addressing disorders, and sure, it's sometimes important to look at specific disorders, but it's really about building the fundamental skills for general mental health. And that's, I think, what we're trying to do. This is our raison d'etre, and it's very much behind our new program for working with young people in schools, because this is the place to start. I mean, from all the work we've been doing with adults, we got more and more requests saying, what have you got for young people? So it became very clear to us that actually schools are, you know, are working for the intellectual attainment of our children, but where are the life skills? This was for some reason becoming, you know, wasn't there for children. So we're building in these life skills, which are the non-cognitive skills of resilience and coping. Motivation. Motivation comes from feelings of self-belief and feelings of determination, of resilience, of grit, of wanting to work at something and stick with something. So that's what our Nesta supported schools program is doing, and we're glad to say that we've got funding for the next year, so we're able to offer it to schools free, which is great. So please email us if you're interested. And we're able to, in this, we have the audio track specifically adapted for the younger pupils, which they listen to in class and at home if they want, but we also support it with teacher training and integrated weekly activities for the children too. So they got a chance to talk about some of the key themes in emotional well-being and emotional health. I want to say also to remember that, I mean, we're talking about emotional health, but also there are other aspects which affect how we feel too. As many people are saying, they're doing more sport, physical health, absolutely really important. Sleep, fundamental. And I think now it's recognized that actually sleep often is a precursor to poor mental health. Whereas I think before, one of the questions you'd be asked if you went to see your doctor, say, you know, if they were assessing whether you were depressed, they would say, how are you sleeping? And if you ticked yes, that was a marker of being depressed. Sure, it is, but actually the poor sleep comes before the depression. So sleep is very important, and as is good food, and water. So taking care of our physical body too. So we've talked a lot about some of the precursors of our mental health and some of the ways that we can help boost our mental health. So really that's the end of my presentation. I'd like to have your questions, and also I'd like to just to end by thinking, well, what are you doing that's helping you? Is there anything that you've found out or thinking through today's session that you might want to apply? And from reading some of your comments too, what are you going to keep? What are the, you know, this means quite a lot of good stuff. What are you going to keep for as we come out of this? So have a think about those, and I'll put them in the chat box, and very happy to answer questions, and Danny can facilitate that. I think there's a raise hand feature, or she can read out your question.
Yeah, we've had a couple of questions as you were doing the presentation.
Excellent.
Someone has been asked if you've been told that you will not recover from a debilitating disease, how does that affect things there? Particularly as they don't know a lot about COVID-19 according to their consultant, but because of COVID-19, it means that they're not being seen.
Okay, well that's, do you want to answer that, Alastair, as a medic? I mean, it's a difficult one because we don't know the specifics.
Can you repeat the question? It's about recovery from COVID, is it?
No, it's
recovery from?
If you've been told that you will not recover from a debilitating disease.
Ah, right. Okay. Well, I think clearly that has got a negative impact on your mental health. There's no doubt about that. But I think in terms of, I mean, we've used our program in stroke, and we've used it in multiple sclerosis, which is pretty debilitating. And in both cases, there was an improvement. So I think there must be still resources that you're able to access in these circumstances. You know, we found that in people who'd had a stroke, who were rehabilitating after a stroke, they often would access positive memories from the past, which and actually they felt much better generally. So I mean, there must be some way that I mean, I'm always amazed. I use this program myself. It's very good for performance and very good if I'm making a presentation like this. It's very useful. And I mean, I'm moderately competent, but I can always find extra resources, I think, and you know, be a little bit better, be more relaxed, enjoy my family life more and everything.
I think that's right. As Alastair said, we used it for stroke and stroke survivors who, you know, many of whom were very debilitated afterwards. And it's a readjustment and helping them. There's a lot of acceptance, I think, when we're dealing with illness. I mean, there's a lot of acceptance in life anyway. You know, none of us are immortal. We have to accept the fact we will die at some point. And many of us have to accept being ill as well. So it is that readjustment, and to maybe have to let go of some of our expectations and to make new ones in terms of being able to communicate with the people that are important to us.
I think if you can have an increased sense of purpose and meaning, it will always help you, no matter how desperate things are. That's what they found in the concentration camps.
That's right.
People who had a sense of purpose and meaning survived.
Yeah. You know, it's an individual thing. If somebody wants to email us for more specific guidance, we're happy to say. See, someone said, yeah, children are resilient, but actually staff less so, and some are feeling negative about coming to school. Yeah, I can totally understand that. There's a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of rumors. There's a lot of fear. And I think some of the strategies around supporting staff might be around communication, so that you might have a newsletter, or you might have a forum for communication. You might want to give staff the opportunity to talk about within themselves, to have groups, or to listen to some mindfulness exercises in the staff room. I know that sometimes NHS teams will do that. They'll start a meeting with a short mindfulness session, just to help everybody just calm, you know, reorientate themselves to their inner calm. Being open to listening and to accepting the difficulties, that's always part of, you know, the acknowledging people's troubles, and then finding ways to look at some of perhaps the positive things. Because one of the things about being negative is sometimes we get stuck in it. and that's the importance of being able to step back. So looking at some of the tools that are out there and just asking them, what can we do to help you feel better in the school? And I'm sure
mindfulness is very useful, and our app is also, I think, extremely useful. Our app has been shown to work in even a clinical situation. Mindfulness is okay, very good for stress, but for kind of clinical depression or anxiety, then I think our app has got better evidence than mindfulness, and it's free, as you can see, for anyone. But I mean, we're more looking at the mechanisms of recovery in this
webinar. Yes.
Webinar. Yes.
So someone said, is there an app for young people? Yes, I'm glad. This is this screen, and so this is the adult one. It's called Positive Mindset, Feeling Good Positive Mindset. That's the logo on the App Store. Use username, CoBoost, password, positive. Put these in the download tab, and it will unlock positive mental training. And then we've got Feeling Good Teens. This is the one for young people. Same username and password for them, CoBoost and CoBoost. So they haven't got the positive password, they've got CoBoost. And that's short and 9 tracks. We just developed this, so really interested in your feedback on this. I know that some of the young people find it very helpful. So, but as it's quite new, very useful, very keen to have feedback. So email us. What other questions? What age is the young app for? I think over about 10, 11. It's not going to do any harm whatsoever if younger children listen. They might just get a bit bored, but you might want to do it together. You know, we've been running training sessions for NHS workers for many years, and many of them would listen to the program with their children, many, and we never ever heard of anybody saying it did any harm. And you know, psychiatry outpatients use it for adults, but I think if you don't like it, you just stop listening and disengage. But it's based on relaxation, so you need to make sure that you're safe when you listen. Don't listen when you're driving. How to stay positive when a bit of you is not sure that returning to school is the right time. That's a well, like maybe that's just about a bit of trust and to see yourself dealing at school, and maybe just to say, well, I'm going to do what I can to protect myself. I'm not sure what's behind this question, whether it's about self-protection or whether it's about protecting the children. So there might be several things, but just to do what you feel you need to do for yourself. And then maybe just take it stepwise and say, I'll maybe give it a go and see how it goes, but monitor again, and maybe have a conversation with someone in school. I'm not sure.
Yes, I think we all feel a bit sorry for the heads as well who are having to implement this with very little direction. Hopefully it will become clearer over time, and maybe none of the schools will go back in June. It wouldn't surprise me if that happens. But
in England, see, we're in Scotland, it's a slightly different situation.
Well, they won't be going back anyway until the autumn term, so in Scotland. But
has anybody got any tips for anybody else? Any of the attendees?
We have had a few further questions, Sheila, that have been sent to me. We've had a couple of people ask, and I can, once I get the answer here, and once you're answering the next question, I'll move on to afterwards. What's the best email address for people to email you directly? Is it the one for the Foundation for Positive Mental Health?
I've just put it on the screen, Danny. Thank you for prompting that.
That's great. We've got a couple more questions that have come out as well. We've got how do you manage anxiety and negative mental health when you don't trust the government in regards to lifting restrictions? Nervous and I don't want to leave the house. Concerns and related to health anxiety.
I think, yes, I think the important thing in these circumstances is to take control yourself, to take positive action. And I think, again, I mean, you will find the resources inside you to know what to do. You know, you have got a kind of inner advisor who will keep you from your sense of purpose and meaning, will keep you moving in the right direction. Obviously it's very, very difficult to deal with that, with this particular situation. So
I think,
sorry,
yeah, can I
no
just
easy
jump?
answer.
Yeah, just to recognize that anxiety is felt in the body, so do some body work. Focus on
Yes,
your breathing and relaxing the body so as you
yeah,
can let go of some of that anxiety. And you'll find that you're able to step back a bit and you might be able to reevaluate the risks. There are very
yes.
mixed messages, but
Yeah,
uh,
the very first part of our program is about Jacobson relaxation, which is very powerful, which is sort of tensing and then relaxing. So it talks you through that, and also it talks you through good breathing techniques, which will allow you to calm down as well. So that completely calms your body and allows you to think in a more positive mindset.
that's right. And I think vitamin D is becoming very
Yes,
much
but
thought
don't
of.
take too much. Don't take too much. There's been stuff saying you should take a mega dose, but you don't need to. You only need a really small dose, 10 micrograms a day. Don't take more than that.
Yeah.
We do have another question is there danger in positivity unless sad feelings are also embraced?
Yeah. Yeah, I suppose that's what being manic is, isn't it? So it's really important to embrace the sad feelings, and what we think happens is that they become transformed. So it's like that event that's causing the sad feeling is like nested within, as I was saying, 3 memories, supporting memories. And if those are memories that have, you know, the competency, the relatedness, and the autonomy, so they can support that. So it's not that the memory is still sad, but it stops impacting on your present day life, which is what's important. It just becomes like a memory, an event that happened in the past, but it's no longer impinging. And I think that's important. And that's what allows us to connect with and keep more real positivity rather than sort of forced or anything.
Yeah, I think that the positivity that we're talking about is self-determination, and that won't always just make you happy, but it will make you take the action that you need to take to improve your situation.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense. I mean, you know, the positive psychology movement is criticized a lot because it just says, oh, feel happy and everything will be all right. It's not a question of feeling happy. It's a question of feeling a sense of autonomy and competence and relatedness, self-determination.
You see someone saying, is there anything that can be done with pupils in the morning to calm them down? Yeah, breathing exercise, a mindfulness exercise would be very, very good. We, in some of the schools that participated last year, they were listening to an audio track in the morning. Many teachers said that calmed the children down. So I think anything that involves a sort of relaxation type, mindfulness type exercise is very helpful, and it can be quite short. They don't, you know, it can be like 3 minutes. Someone said, do you think this is, in retrospect, this whole episode will be seen as a negative one? Oh, for sure. For sure. I think so. You know, some
Yes.
people come out of it, but it's very challenging. I think many people say it's really quite a seismic event, and it will cause, I hope it does cause some positive change in our society.
Well, I think some people will get very depressed and some people will actually do okay. This is what happened after 9/11. They found that some people were just profoundly depressed and wouldn't go out, but some people actually managed to bounce back very quickly. And you know, it just, and what that depended on was whether or not they could experience positive emotions. People who had on a daily basis could experience more positive emotions bounced back much more quickly, and I think we're probably in a similar situation. And
Yeah,
those positive emotions, I mean, our research looked at that particular study. Oh yeah, positive emotions, that's great, that'll help. But then we found that these positive emotions actually come from inner resources, i.e. memories that you have, you know, you can access or you can learn to access. That makes sense.
yes, and I think that's really our key message, is that anyone, everyone can learn the skills to help maintain good mental health. You know, that if you're depressed, you don't have to be stuck in depression. But sometimes, as someone was saying, like the sadness, the negative feelings can keep us there. So they need to be dealt with in a very safe way. And that allows this transformation. Any specific mindfulness activities? Well, obviously our one we'd point you to. Breathing. I'm going to make an animation for this because I think it's really important. So we're good. It's not ready yet. But otherwise, I'm sure if you Google on the web, there'll be lots of breathing YouTube clips, but I couldn't tell you which one's good just now, sorry. Our program's not for primary schools. No, we decided to focus on the first year of senior school. That might well change, but at present, that's where we're at. Any other questions, Danny?
There are no other questions that we've received that you haven't already read, but one thing I would say, Sheila and Alastair in particular, for some of the messages that I've been receiving through is that people are generally feeling very stressed, very unsure, very anxious. And I think now is probably a really important time to say that there's obviously the support that Sheila and Alastair have offered through the Foundation for Positive Mental Health, but I know that many of you are insured with SAS. And if you are struggling, please do contact us. I've sent everybody an email today with information about how to access the webinar here today. And what I'll do in the chat box in just a moment is I'll put my email address and I'll put the telephone number to reach us on. And if anybody is really struggling, really anxious, please reach out to us. Please don't suffer in silence on your own.
That's great, Danny. It's really good to hear. And just to emphasize that our app is very good for sleep. Really, really good for sleep. I think everybody says it improves their sleep. So if for nothing else, if that's a problem for you, don't hesitate. Great. Well, thank you very much. We're open to receiving emails and comments. And it'd be great to have this recording. So thank you very much, Danny.
Thank you, Danny.
Thank you. Thank you for everybody that's attended. It's been great to have a chat with everybody today about their concerns and how everybody's feeling and what we can do to maintain a positive mindset and get back on track.
Good.
Good.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.